Hey, everybody. We're so happy to have you joining us with Life on Purpose Live on a Friday afternoon. You're in for a treat. We're so excited. I'm a big fan of Jarod O'Flaherty. He is the producer of Vindication. We're going to talk a lot about his role as a filmmaker. He's also a husband, a father, became a believer at a young age, a very good filmmaker, a very creative writer. So we're going to talk to him about how you don't just wake up one day and produce a hit show, a crime drama that's got a Christian family at the center of it. So, Jarod, we're going to have a lot of fun talking to you about the opportunities we have in media to reach people with an encouraging message.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm glad to finally make it here on the show. I know you've had a cast member or two in the past, and
Yes.
I may have even said, hey, when do I get a chance to talk Vindication? So thanks for having me on.
I'm so glad. Yeah, we had Todd Terry, I guess, last year, and we had TC on, and need to have Cameron on. And you've got some great cast members. You've just had a lot to build on. But you didn't wake up here, and I know you accepted Christ at 16 years old, and you had your hand in some other productions and short films. But what has God done in your life to build your faith? From 16, I mean, you're married, you have kids. I mean, life is busy, but what has been the thread of God working in your life to bring this about?
Yeah, so like everyone, it's been a journey.
Hmm.
Those first days as a young believer, I was just soaking in everything and learning about what it meant to follow Christ in my life. And then, along the journey from there to here, which I guess that's been close to 24 years, I guess. There've just been checkpoints but there's bumps in the road, everything else. And if there's anything about me as a person, I have a pretty good, strong memory about my own life. My wife and friends are always kind of amazed. How do you remember all that stuff, Jarod? And I
Yeah.
think along that way, God has put those moments and relationships and everything else in there to help me get to where I'm at now, where I get to do a TV show and take some of those stories and regurgitate them, mold them into something that can be turned into a 20-30 minute story that
Yeah.
shares biblical truths with people.
Well, and it's amazing how you do that, but how did it start? I mean, what was your first project?
My very first project, well, it's hard to go back. When I was about 18, so been a believer about 2 years, I went to youth camp with our church, and one of the junior high kids there had a camera. Everyone didn't have cameras on their phones at that time. If you had a
Yeah.
camera, it's because you brought it and
You were cool. Yeah.
yeah, and it was also about this big.
Yeah.
So anyway, he had a camera, wasn't using it. I picked it up and started just filming this youth camp, and when we got back afterwards at the end of the week, I edited it together and we showed it to our church. And there I had, 200-300 people, this captive audience that were getting to see the story of youth camp, of what happened that week. And really, they had never done that before because, like I said, cameras weren't everywhere. So for them to get to see what their teenagers, how they went and experienced God for a week, it was a neat thing. And for me, I was able to tell this story to all of them through film, and it probably is what got me hooked a little bit of, hey, I want to do this next year, I want to do it more. And over time that grew into music videos and other things that were more narrative instead of just recording what was happening.
Well, that's great because you can see that God put a seed in your heart, and then you come all these years later, and what you're doing, it's so different because you've taken a crime drama, which is great. It's excellently produced. It's fast paced. I mean, you're sitting on the edge of your seat, and it's a crime drama. But at the center of the drama is a Christian family. And what I love about it so much is they're not the perfect Christian family. They struggle through real issues, and you show them working through their faith every day, which I think is a great way to portray. I mean, faith is, we're working together as a family. So, how did you come up with the idea to bring it to real? I mean, it's real.
Yeah, I don't know that it was so much of an idea but more so a storytelling approach.
Hmm.
I personally, the few series that I have watched in the last several years have always been like modern day, real life, realistic based stories.
Mm-hmm.
There's no supernatural heroes or, outer space forces or those. I'm not interested in those. So I like telling real stories that people, could happen next door or across the street from you. And so I took that approach to it. And then of course it's got the faith element to it. So and to me that was also very natural and realistic, because everyone, like I mentioned in my journey, you run into people and you hear stories, you experience it yourself. It's a part of life. And so putting that into a narrative format, wasn't, I guess, for me really difficult, or what I didn't think of it as some novel idea. It's just like, hey, let's be real. Let's do things the way they really happen.
Did you draw from real life on some of the concepts that you use? I mean, you deal with some, tough topics, but they're real topics. I mean, they're topics people deal with. So did you draw from real life experience or things you saw in families? I mean, as a family man, I mean, obviously you're out in the grind raising teenage kids. You see what's out there, and then you bring it to film. So do those go hand in hand sometimes with ideas?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you wanted a specific example from people that are familiar with the show, in season 1, episode 3, was a story about a software developer, a self-employed guy, and things were not going well for his business. It was causing strains and problems with his wife. And then this guy disappears one day. And the wife now is having to reflect and retell these stories of maybe how she was treating her husband, how she was not supporting him in that, and now what she would do without him. And it shows really, I think, a beautiful change in her heart during that time of him being missing. At the time that was written, that's kind of what I was doing. I have a software company and I was working on things, and my wife was phenomenally supportive in everything I did. And the thought just kind of triggered, what if she wasn't the way she is, and being patient and supportive? What would that look like? And so this story comes about, of kind of what that would look like. And, some of the terminology that the dad uses, that the husband uses, or things are like, oh yeah, that's a part of my everyday life at that point in time. And honestly, almost every episode, you could find something like that of an encounter or something I've been around that inspired that storyline.
Well, and you have this white picket fence storyline from Hollywood where people look at, oh my gosh, they have the perfect life. If only I could have that life. And there's no reality to that. I mean, there's nothing true about that. So you've brought it in, and especially at a faith-based story, you bring families together, and you show the Travis family dealing with their teenagers and the issues. I mean, the sex trafficking and things like that. But you deal with it from a very real perspective. So I think that's honorable, and it's encouraging, because if you're married, you've been through marriage issues. If you've raised kids, you've been through kid issues, and you don't want to feel like, everybody else has got it perfect. What's wrong with me?
Yeah, and people that maybe don't know a whole lot about filmmaking or even storytelling, they're just more on the audience side, they're partakers as opposed to creators. They can still sniff it out very easily if something's not genuine in there,
Yeah.
And like you said about keeping it real, it's like, hold on, nobody would ever say that in that. Nobody would respond, be that nice, or no one would be that calm with total chaos going on around them, and yet they're perfectly calm and know all the right answer. You can, again, you can sense it and realize it, even if you're not someone who typically is on the creative side of content. So yeah, we definitely try to keep it real, where people can't point at something and say, oh, that would never happen. That's honestly something I guess I haven't mentioned in any interviews, is when we're doing scripts, I try not to ever have a moment or a situation or a line that someone can look at and go, that would never happen anywhere. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that's really good, because especially if because you've got a great opportunity for non-believers to watch and get an effective faith, but it's also going to be realistic. Like, I could never be that. I mean, yes, you could, because you see what that family's struggling with, but they're coming together as opposed to pulling them apart. And I think that's such an important part of it.
Yeah, and we're telling fictional stories, but they are about a very real God. So if you take too much liberty with that fiction part, then what does it say about the real elements of these stories that you're telling? So that's why we try to stay. Now, again, there are some things that, they can look at, since we deal with police crime drama, that police departments could say, yeah, that's not how we do things. That doesn't happen. And it's like, yeah, but would that never happen? Could it not happen anywhere else? And you'll have other, law enforcement. Oh, no, that's how we do it here in our small town, or here's how we do it in this state. So there's always going to be the way it doesn't happen that way, but we just try to stay as grounded and close to realism as possible.
So season 1, people can go binge season 1. It's on Amazon Prime and PureFlix, right?
Yeah, that's correct. You can purchase or rent it on Amazon Prime for subscribers of PureFlix. It's available for them. And then Redeem TV, which is a production partner with us, they you can log in for free and watch it there as well.
That's good. So how many episodes in season 1?
Season 1 has 10 episodes. They average about 31 minutes apiece. And then season 2 is also 10 episodes. They do average a little longer. I think it's 33, 32 minutes, somewhere in there.
And the launch of that is September 1st, and it will be on PureFlix at least for the first little while.
Yes, exclusively launch day, September 1st on PureFlix, the first 2 episodes of season 2. It's been about 2 years since season 1 came out. So in the timeline of our characters, it's going to be 2 years in the future for them, where we pick up the storyline, see where life has taken each one of them. I don't think any of them are going to be the same. So you won't just start and go, oh, okay, this is more of the exact same thing as season 1. No, we have stepped forward in life. So yeah, the first 2 episodes will release on PureFlix that day. They'll come out on Redeem TV a few days later. And then not long after that, there will be purchase options for those who maybe want to go ahead and just binge watch the whole season. There'll be some purchase options available. PureFlix is going to release 1 episode per week after that initial launch day.
That's so exciting. And you filmed season 2 in the midst of the pandemic. What was that like?
We did. Let's see. We had a few cast members that a day or 2 before filming tested positive, usually on other film sets, and let us know. And obviously we couldn't have them show up. So we had to do some emergency recasting. Fortunately, none of those situations were ever for recurring cast members or established cast members. It always happened, almost in God's timing of just the right moment that we could come back and do a recast. So we had that happen a few times. I would say the very first time that we started shooting last June, a lot of us had not been around anyone other than our families or any type of crowd in a long, long time. So it was a very, unique experience almost to be around people again, because we had not been through that recently. So yeah, that's what it was like. Definitely another added dimension having to deal with the COVID stuff, but with the Lord's favor, we got through it without any outbreaks or production shutdowns or anything of that nature.
That's amazing. And I can't wait because it is binge worthy. And I know season 2 is going to be like that. So let's talk about purpose. People can, there's the weather alert. People can look at you and see what you're doing and think, man, I wish I could do that. He's living the life. He's living the dream. But what do you say to someone, from a faith perspective, a walking with the Lord every day, that is struggling with a sense of purpose, and they're trying to find their thing, that they're wanting to, yeah, somebody's commenting on the weather alert, that thing they want to do with their life. And, it looks like when you see somebody like you, it was easy for you, but it wasn't. You had to take a step out and, start with the filming of the church camp. What do you say to someone about a sense of purpose and how to walk that out with the Lord on a daily basis?
Yeah. This may not be the direction you wanted to go with that. I see it when you talk about purpose and then my craft. I think it's very dangerous for those two to overlap, or not overlap, but get confused between the two, because here's the thing. If I get my purpose out of this film stuff that I'm doing, well, it has ups and downs, And if there are those down times where I'm not working, maybe the project doesn't get the green light, maybe people are writing ugly reviews online and I get my purpose out of that, well, what does that do to me? It's not a positive thing. So while I may see certainly that, look what God has given me, he's given me this opportunity, he's given me some gifts, he's certainly paved the road ahead of me, like keeping us COVID free. What happens if in that episode 1 where we're filming, things just go haywire? People are getting COVID, they're sick, they can't show up, the whole thing just collapses. That's definitely his hand that provided that what I call the smooth path ahead to get us through that. So anyway, I say all that to say, it's very dangerous to let your purpose get so tied into that it can it can sway with the waves. It can be shaken and pushed around, So for me, the purpose has to come somewhere else of what is it that he has me to do, A lot of that can be in how I interact with people, totally unrelated to the film stuff. How do I interact with people online when, they want to audition for the show, or they want to send me a script to look at, or whatever, how do I interact with people when we're negotiating if they're going to be a part of the series? There's just so many different areas. And a lot of times those aren't always the easiest situations. They're difficult, but if my purpose is reflecting Christ at all times, whether it's on a screen or in an email or wherever, then, that certainly can, I think, help you avoid those problems that come with taking purpose from your craft. Now, that's not to say that I don't mess up sometimes in how I interact with people. It's nobody's perfect there, but it's just again, trying not to get my purpose solely from this craft.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's very well said, because sometimes you think your job has to be your purpose, when sometimes your purpose may be your family, or it may be, what you're saying, that day-to-day operation. Sometimes our platforms are different than what we do every day, but we still share Christ, and we're the aroma of Christ in whatever we do, every day. So what do you think has been the biggest hurdle that you've faced for anyone who may be a aspiring filmmaker? Or, we have media at our fingertips now. So we have an opportunity to share Christ across the world in a matter of seconds. What do you say to someone that's thinking about, how could I use media, or my creative side? Because you're creative, you write, you direct, you produce. I mean, you've got a lot of those roles going on in you. What do you say to someone about where we are? I mean, we look at the world, we think it's falling apart, but it's also a great opportunity to use what we have.
Yeah, you mentioned about we look at the world and it falling apart. I actually yesterday had a couple conversations, because there's a lot of ugly stuff going on right now. A lot of conflict, a lot of tough issues going on in our world, and I'm seeing that on social media and in the news, and I feel kind of weird going and posting about, hey, go watch our TV series.
Yeah.
It's like there's big stuff going on. And the people that talked to me said, Jarod, but there's still a place for that. We need to be able to disconnect from that and go watch a show that points us towards hope. We need that refuge, that ability to get away from it for a second. So that's why it is important. That's why I do keep posting those things. I use the example of a picture like in Civil War, Revolutionary War. When they'd have these soldiers line up to start marching, what do they have out there? They got a bugle player. They got people playing the drums. And what was that for? Now, I know there's certain purposes there, but at the same time, I think it was just to lift spirits, to get people up from being in such a tough situation. And maybe that's where Vindication's place can be, is pointing to people towards hope during a tough time. So yeah, I think that's definitely a place of where it fits into everything that's going on. You'd mentioned, I think, in their hurdles for people that are getting into the industry, and I want to make sure I answered that as well. I try to be direct on things like this. I've found a lot of people that like to create things that only interest them, or a very small niche of entertainment or media that fit them. And then they go make it, and they pour all this time and energy into it. And then there's nobody wants to watch it. It doesn't do very well. So there's certainly an element of, when you're going to pour all this work into it, make sure maybe that it hits as broad of an audience as you can, because otherwise you're going to pour all this effort into it, and it may not go as far as you're hoping for.
Well, that's very true. But at the same time, you have to still persevere. You have to learn from the experts. You have to do the homework to be excellent at what you're going to put out there, so that it is, it's easy for me when I see the Facebook question, oh my gosh, I don't have anything to watch on, TV. Anybody got any series? I can comfortably, as a Christian, say Vindication. There's not many shows you can recommend where someone's not going to say, I can't believe she just said that, so you have created something with excellence. It's safe to watch, but it's edgy from the standpoint of it's real. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that, because what you're saying is go for the broad audience, which is so true. And you've done exactly that. I mean, most everybody that I know loves the show, and it's been very well received. And I'm sure you've had some pushback on some of the honesty and things like that as well.
Yeah, I would honestly say the pushback has been limited. I would expect it to be more because, like I said, we do tackle some tough things, and I don't think we cross the line, but we certainly let you know that there's a line out there, kind of move
Yeah.
in that direction. But the pushback, for me at least, has been very, very minimal, compared to the, hey, thank you for finally having a Christian show deal with this matter, because it seems like all the others avoid it, or they don't maybe tell it with honesty. So, yeah.
I agree with that. And the thing that I love the most about it is that the family, Todd Terry, Detective Travis, has his own family, and you watch them wrestle with their faith together. And I think that is something that, the marriage and everything is so good, because it goes back to real stuff, and it makes people realize, if they're struggling with some faith issues, or raising teenagers, or wondering if their kid can have a cell phone. I mean, you've gone through the episodes that deal with the sexting and things like that. I mean, it gives them a place to learn what the real world is like, but also what that family is doing to try to be the best they can in providing a good environment. Make sense?
Yes, yes. And you mentioned that family element. When we got feedback from season one, obviously this is a crime drama. We have a crime of the week. And while people said they enjoyed that and like trying to figure it out, and the switches and trying to solve the crime, so to speak, they said, but what really drew me in were these family stories, or the
Yes.
relationships between Detective Travis and Chris, or between him and his wife, or him and his daughter. That's what kept me coming back. So when we went into season two, that was a focus. Let's make sure that we really tell those stories. There's still going to be a crime of the week, but each episode may not be about chasing evidence and those sort of things, chasing bad guys and doing interrogations, but more let's really know these characters. And yeah, the crime is still there. It's still an element, but just not maybe as big as some others.
So that's the main difference moving into season two from season one. It's more about the family and the faith than it is the crime itself.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. If season one was a crime drama, I would say season two is probably a drama with some crime. It's still there, but a little bit different. And we do have recurring characters that show up that you don't know anything about yet, but you will.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they get introduced is very natural and organic. And then you start to, by the end, you're going to care about characters that before episode one, you didn't know who they were, what they were about. So we've got our primaries, but then there are some new ones that come in as well that you'll grow to learn about.
It's so exciting. Yeah. And one of my favorite things too is that I know people in the show, and I'm like, that's exciting to see people that are great people, and they're putting together a great product. So is there going to be a season three, or do we know yet? I know we're on season two, but I mean, what's the plan? Do you have big plans as you move forward as a film producer? What do you think?
I believe that we have more stories to tell in the Vindication world. I don't
Yeah.
think that we have emptied that well yet. I
Right.
think there is more, and I would not go into another season if I didn't think it had the potential, or I strongly believe that it was going to be the best season yet. So
Yeah.
that to me is when I know to stop. Is if I don't think it's going to be the best season we've had, then it's probably time to hang it up. And with Vindication, I do believe there's opportunity, but the fans are really going to be the ones that make that happen. People watch it, think that was good, and then go to bed. Well, then Vindication's going to fizzle out. If people watch it and go, I need to tell 5 people to go check this out, this is one of the most enjoyable shows I've watched recently, then that's really going to help us.
And how can the faith community help you? Because we want more people making good quality films. And so what can people do to help make sure there's a season three, I mean, I know watching, but sharing. I mean, I think that us supporting one another and being so intentional about, hey, there's a Christian over here doing this. Let's help him be successful. I mean, how can we help you, and how can the faith-based community know what's important for you to consider success as you build on the Vindication series?
Yeah, well, it's not just about me and Vindication, but I've been to several conferences,
Mm-hmm.
even church auditoriums. And one of the first things I do is ask people there, how many of you have heard of Vindication or seen any episodes? And about half the room will raise their hand. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's less than half, and then the next thing is in the other half of the room. How many of you have never heard of it? And it's usually a ton of people, and this is like the home base audience. This is
Right.
like my home church, or this is like a conference that Vindication's been at 2 or 3 times, and half the people there have never watched it, or never heard of it. And I would like to think, or not like to think, but I also suspect that in many of those cases, those are people that go, man, Hollywood just puts out so much junk and there's so
Yeah.
much trash in our entertainment. And I wish it would change. And I haven't watched any of the Christian stuff put out in the last 5 years, but I'm going to complain about, and it's like, you've got to give it a chance, and you've got to be engaged instead of just complaining about the Hollywood stuff, or
Mm-hmm.
again, the people who go to the Christian fest and hear what's going on and then go home and watch everything that Netflix puts out. It's like those people got enough money, they got enough audience. If we're not at least giving a chance to the others, then there's really no way they're going to succeed.
Yeah, and it's a great way for us to come together. I mean, we talk about unity all the time. We talk about coming together all the time. But one of the things we can do for the people in ministry, it may not be a ministry, but it has a faith element. Then we can support each other and get the word out so that everybody knows what vindication is and why you're doing it, and just helping the social media. What do you call it? Viral. Go viral.
Right. And I would honestly say, but also for those on the filmmaker side like myself, make us earn your attention. Give it a chance. That's what you've got to do. Give it a chance. If it isn't working, then let us know so that way we can get better, right? It is
Yeah.
better for you to watch it and say this was no good and tell us why. That's going to help us get better, as opposed to, oh, I'm not even going to give it a shot. I'll just go
Yeah.
watch what Netflix put out this week, right? It's never going to get better without that. So definitely just being engaged and involved helps.
Well, I think that's well said. And so it's vindicationseries.com, right?
That's the address. Yep.
And on Wednesday of next week, 2 episodes are going to be released, and they're going to be on PureFlix. I'm trying to say this, so I mean, I see a couple of questions over here. Where do I find it? And we want to make sure that we let everybody know. So it's going to be on PureFlix, but they can always go to your website to find updates as far as where to stream, right?
Yeah. On social media, Vindication Series on Facebook, Vindication Series on Instagram. Those are the two big ones where we share that information as far as where to watch. But and to get caught up, if you go into season 2, but you don't know any of these characters, and you're this is no good. I don't understand what's going on. So watching season 1, which is available again for PureFlix subscribers, and then also on Redeem TV, people can get caught up this week leading up to next Wednesday and be ready to go in and see the new stuff.
And I would definitely recommend that to anyone because it's very good. Every episode is very, very good. So, well, we're so excited to get to have you on. I'm so excited about what you're doing. And we're never going to run out of good stories or good topics. So we hope you keep going. For season whatever you've got in you as far as writing goes.
Yeah, I've had someone give me the feedback that you watch crime dramas on TV, there's no shortage of them. I mean, every network seems like they have a couple, and they've been going for a long time, but you get to the end and you're kind of like exhaling, whoa, and you've just watched some murder mystery, or you've watched something usually pretty ugly that doesn't have a lot of hope in it, but you get to the end of a Vindication episode,
Yeah.
and you can smile and you can feel good about what just took place or what you just saw. So that's kind of where it's different, is you get that same genre, but at the end you can step away and go, oh wow, that was neat, or I like how that turned out, as opposed to the alternatives, which are usually it's the bad guy getting thrown away for 20 years, but there's no vindication, there's no hope in the end of it.
Well, and it's definitely got the faith in the family, and I think most people are looking for something they can watch that has the faith element and the family in it. That you don't want to watch preaching, not necessarily, but you want to watch something that is safe. And y'all have done a great job with your posters, with all what you've done. I mean, it's the whole thing to me has just got a lot of momentum. So I think it's up from here, and I'm proud of y'all, and can't wait to see season 2 kicking off and everybody binging on season 1 to get caught up.
Yeah, well, people like you supporting and promoting and talking about it are the reason we got a season 2, and hopefully we will get a season 3 from the same. So we certainly appreciate you. Hope that we have earned your fandom, and
Oh,
so
we are so excited, and I'm so glad to get to share, and I'm glad we finally got to get together with you and I, even if it's a screen away.
yeah, and you be safe where you're at with the storm coming in. Hope for the best there.
Yes, I'm praying it calms down, but yes. Well, thank you so much. Good luck next week. We'll post these links on where it can get it in the a post and make sure everybody can see where it is. So thank you. Congratulations. I'm excited for you.
Thank you, and
And
excited for you to watch, and hope I hear from you after you've watched a few.
I will. I definitely will. Thank you so much, Jared. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.